Hello, this is my audience, my father, my mother, and my brother. Have you ever felt judged for who you are, what you believe, or where your family comes from? People experience this every day because of cultural and religious stigma, even if it is silently. When people are treated differently based on their culture, they often feel excluded and misunderstood. This can affect their confidence, their participation in relationships, and kids' success in school. I believe this matters to everyone in this room because we all come from different backgrounds, ethnically and culturally. So we can all benefit from learning and being in an environment where we feel safe and everyone is respected. Today, I will first talk about how cultural stigma has developed over time. I will then explain how it negatively affects communities and the people inside them, and finally, how to promote understanding and acceptance to improve outcomes for everyone. I'll begin by explaining how cultural stigma develops. Cultural stigma is not natural. It has developed over time. Stigmatization is defined as the differentiation and labeling of a collective group of individuals based on their characteristics, attributes, qualities, or status. Throughout history, societies have created divisions between us and them, which led to stereotypes and misunderstandings. These divisions were often reinforced through media, education, and social norms. Jalen Sellerton said in an article focused on a systematic review on the cultural factors associated with stigma during pandemics that, quote, while Link viewed stigma as a universal phenomenon across different cultures and societies, Yang highlighted that the experience and the endorsement of stigmatization could be very different and distinct, as stigmatizing actions, reasons, and outcomes differ based on culture. Different religions and cultures face different types of stigma based on media outplay of certain countries, as well as adolescents being impressionable from an early age. What they see from other people will be copied, and this leads to a cycle of different people talking about different people. Cultural and religious stigma harms relationships and leads to unfair treatment. Cultural and religious stigma often creates misunderstandings that damage friendships, families, and communities. People may avoid others because of stereotypes about their beliefs, traditions, or background. This could lead to separation between groups instead of cooperation and trust. Stigma can also lead to unfair treatment based on skin color or religion. Individuals may be judged before they even speak, simply because of how they look or what they believe. This kind of bias can make people feel excluded, disrespected, or feel even less valued in social situations. When people feel judged or treated unfairly, relationships become harder to build. Jay Smith said in his article, Cross-Cultural Relationships, that, quote, the loyalty we often feel towards our own culture and traditions can sometimes mean we find it difficult to understand another's. In a relationship situation, when two people have differing beliefs, it is these feelings that can be pushed to the forefront, overwhelming the individual's feelings we have for one another. Misunderstandings grow, communication decreases, and conflicts become more likely. Instead of learning from each other, people become divided and less willing to connect. Understanding these harms shows why promoting acceptance and understanding is imperative. Because stigma is socially created and based on culture, it can also be changed through education and awareness. This would improve outcomes. Cultural and religious stigma affects how opportunities and resources are distributed. It can influence access to jobs, healthcare, housing, and social support, leading to unfair treatment of certain cultural or religious groups. Communities and institutions should create interventions that support affected groups. Programs led by fields such as social work, psychology, public health, and education can work together to reduce discrimination and support inclusion. Grand Challenges for Social Work wrote an excerpt on reducing the impact on stigma. They wrote, quote, one approach would be to try to change society's views of marginalized groups. Another would be developing interventions with people within these groups to minimize the impact of these negative societal stereotypes so that these views cannot be internalized. Addressing stigma requires active efforts to promote understanding and fairness. Challenging stereotypes and encouraging inclusion helps people feel valued and improves relationships across different cultures and religions. As we've seen, cultural and religious stigma is not just a small social issue. It shapes how people are treated, how relationships form, and how opportunities are distributed across society. We have I explained how cultural stigma developed over time, how it harms communities and relationships through unfair treatment and misunderstanding, and how promoting understanding and acceptance can reduce these divisions and create better outcomes. Think about your own friendships or your own family, and in the future workplaces, imagine how much stronger these relationships could be if people were not judged by their skin color, or their culture, or their religion, but instead respected for their individuality. Cultural stigma is something society created, which means it is something we also have the power to change. By choosing to listen instead of assume, learn instead of judge, and respect instead of exclude, we can build stronger relationships in a fairer society. Change begins with small actions, like the conversations we have, the assumptions we challenge, and the acceptance we show. If we commit to understanding one another, we move closer to a world where differences are not barriers, but strengths for the human race. Thank you.
Good job, Emma.
Thank you.